So while we're all out here social distancing and self-quarantining and everything, we wanted to still be in community with everybody, and we wanted to start by making tea together. So every day this week we're going to make some tea and we're going to share it with you right here. I'm going to start today with something pretty simple, just 3 ingredients. And the first one is pine. So this is some fresh pine that we gathered from the woods out here where we live. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pull off a whole bundle of the needles. We're totally happy for there to still be the little bit of attachment point down at the bottom, even a little bit of the bark in there. That's totally good. There's some good constituents in there that we actually are happy to have in our tea. If you include a substantial amount of bark, like if you peel off one of these little segments and have a bit of twig attached to it, that's totally fine too. You'll get a bit more of the tannins, the astringency from the pine. But there are some interesting anti-inflammatory compounds that have been found in pine bark and are probably not as thoroughly expressed in the needles. So we've lately taken to including a decent amount of some twig or some little bits of bark into our pine tea when we include that in our infusions. So the pine here, the needles, they deliver those aromatics, those lifting elements. And that has, some anti-inflammatory power of its own, but also just that stimulation, that activation. It increases movement and blood activity in the lungs. And so that's something that really helps when we're trying to keep the lungs strong and resilient and protected, which is going to be the goal of this little formula. So the next herb I'm putting in here is mullein. Mullein is another lung-focused herb, but a bit different from pine. Whereas pine is stimulating and activating, and with that tannin element is tonifying and tightening up your boundaries, kind of batten down the hatches sort of a thing. Mullein is an herb that directs moisture to the lungs. And that can be really helpful because if the lungs get too dried out, then they're not going to be able to defend you really well. We also need to keep the mucus moving. So any mucus that's in the lungs, we want it there. It helps. It captures pathogens. It gets them out. It even carries some of your antibodies within it. But we don't want too much, right? We want to keep it thin. We want to keep it moving so that we can cough it up and spit it out and get rid of it, right? And even if you're not actively coughing up phlegm, you still want to have that movement of the mucus, still that nice balance of fluids in the lungs. Mullein just really helps to support that. So I've got that in there. And then I wanted to add something spicy, something a little more warming, something activating. And so I have here some cardamom pods. So we're not making a massive amount of tea, but I am going to put a pretty substantial portion. I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go with 7 cardamom pods. Put them right here. We like these green ones. We like these whole green cardamom pods. But I don't want to just toss them in there like that. I want to expose what's on the inside. So I'm going to take a handy little stone and I'm just going to crush them right here on my countertop to break them open a little bit, to release the black seeds inside that carry much more of the aromatic and stimulating potency of the herb. We do like to keep the green shell in there. Again, that has some tannins, it has some astringent constituents to it. And so we're really seeking with this little trio here a balance between tonifying the lungs, keeping those barriers tight, but also keeping the fluids moving and flowing, and keeping the blood flowing and the lymph flowing underneath that layer so that everything is working as best as it can. So again, a simple formula: pine, mullein, and cardamom. Very easy, very simple to make. You can go to the woods, you can look around, you may have these herbs near you. If not, there are definitely others that you can choose to work with. I would be really delighted to see what you all are working with. So if you want to make your own little herbal formula video or photo, go ahead and tag us, tag @CommonwealthHerbs, and that way we'll get to see it too, and we can get some community going while we're all here in the midst of the lockdown or the shutdown, as we all cope together to try to flatten that curve and help the weak and the sick and the disadvantaged among us to have a better shot at getting through this thing okay.